Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Addict 2.0 and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is What If Kurenai and Anko Got a Children by Naruto, Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. October 10th. The 4th Hokage Minato Namikaze and his wife had just had a baby. He looked at his wife who was unconscious at the time and picked up their little boy who was just born. I am truly sorry. He left the hospital and made his way to the battlefield where the nine-tailed fox Kyubi no Kitsune was attacking the village. Knowing full well he did not have enough strength to defeat the demon, he resorted to the only thing possible to save his village. He decided that he would seal the beast inside his newborn son. He looked at the little boy, blonde hair and blue eyes already prominent. He bent down and gave the boy a kiss and said, "Goodbye, my son." With that being said, he began the hand signs to seal the demon. Moments later, the demon disappeared and the 4th Hokage was dead. Hours later, the 3rd Hokage had already agreed to take up the mantle once more. He was the only person who knew that the boy was Minato's son. He decided that he would not tell the council because it would lead to more problems as nobody knew that the 4th had gotten married. As Sarutobi approached the council, he was met with huge resistance. "It's just some commoner's baby and it carries the demon. Kill it." Sarutobi looked at them like they were crazy. It was the wish of the 4th that this child be seen as a hero. It alone keeps the demon at bay and protects us. Danzo tried to take advantage of the situation. "If that is so, Sarutobi, then give the child to me. I will train it as a weapon to protect this village with." Sarutobi saw where that was headed and wanted to stop it before it got too far. "No, Danzo. This child will be placed in the orphanage until he is old enough to maintain his own place. This will be to protect the boy so that no one knows who he is. Also from this moment on, I decree that anyone who speaks of the Kyubi being inside this child will be punished by death. This is an SS class secret." Danzo knew that he could not win, so he decided to ask for future reference. "What is the child's name?" Sarutobi replied, "His name is Naruto Uzumaki." And he turned and walked out of the room. As Sarutobi took the boy to the orphanage, he could already see the hate-filled stares of the villagers. He looked at the boy and thought, "You're going to have a hard life. I am truly sorry." Meanwhile, nobody knew that Naruto's real mother had already been told that her child was dead, and so was the 4th Hokage. Having this false info stuck in her head, she fled the village as soon as she could. 3 years later, October 10th, a young blonde was running through the village trying to escape the mob of people behind him. He was crying as he ran because he knew that in the end he could not escape the abuse. After running for almost an hour, he collapsed on the road as the villagers caught up. With gleams of hate in their eyes, they began to mutilate the boy. They cut him with knives, kunai, broken bottles and more. They beat him with bats, sticks, or anything they could pick up. After about 5 minutes, the beatings subsided as they all walked away after spitting on the boy and called him a demon. Kurenai Yuhi, who was a genin at the time, not sure of her age, so if someone will help me with that I would appreciate it, stumbled across the scene. She ran up to the boy to see him nearly dead from blood loss. She immediately picked the boy up and took him to the hospital. When she got there, they refused to even look at the boy. She was stunned. She immediately ran to the Hokage and begged him to help the boy. Sarutobi, who knew it was Naruto, immediately grabbed the boy and Kurenai and took off to the hospital. As they saw the Hokage walking up with the boy, they knew that they were screwed. The man in charge decided he would later get revenge on Kurenai for bringing the Hokage. Sarutobi looked at them and said with a rage in his voice, "You will give this boy medical attention or every one of you working in this hospital will be banished from the village under pain of death." They immediately began healing the boy. After about an hour, the boy was put in a recovery room with Anbu guarding the door and windows. Kurenai stayed with the boy until he was ready to leave the hospital. HW was sitting there awake when he spoke to Kurenai, who wasn't paying attention. I'm sorry, what did you say? Naruto looked at her and repeated what he said. I said thank you for bringing me here. I was almost dead. Kurenai was not prepared for how matured the 3-year-old seemed. Little did anybody know the boy was a prodigy who had already begun molding chakra. Also, he had already met the QB once, who immediately began enhancing the boy's intelligence. Kurenai looked at him with awe. Naruto smiled at her and said, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, how can this boy be so intelligent for only being 3? Kurenai nodded. Well, it has a lot to do with who I am. Do you know the truth about me? She shook her head no. Well, when I was born, I had the 9-tailed fox sealed inside of me, completely unaware of the story that was being spread throughout the village. As a result of the beatings, the QB enhanced my intelligence so I could understand what was going on around me. I have only spoken to her once, but she agreed to help me whenever I need it. That is how I heal so fast, and it is why the villagers attack me. They believe me to be the actually QB instead of being its jailer. Kurenai stood there. Sarutobi had been about to go in the room to let Naruto leave when he heard the whole story. This is a result of the village. This boy will never have a normal childhood because of his circumstances. Sarutobi thought. He then walked in the room and said, Well, Naruto, you are clear to leave. Stay out of trouble. Naruto jumped out of bed and said, Thanks, old man. I hope to talk to you later, Kurenai-chan. He ran out of the room and out of the hospital. Kurenai looked at the Hokage and asked, Did you hear the entire conversation? Sarutobi nodded. Well, could you tell me if it is true, Hokage-sama? Sarutobi looked at the girl and said, Yes, I am afraid that it is. He will never lead a normal childhood. I am afraid that he will never be accepted honestly. However, your reaction showed me that there is still hope. However, this is an SS class secret punishable by death if you tell anyone. Now head on home, you have a busy day tomorrow. Kurenai nodded and went home. A few days later, Kurenai was walking home at night when she noticed the man from the hospital who had originally refused to help Naruto following her. She cut through an ally only to have him grab her and slam her into the wall. She fell to the ground with her head hurting. The man looked at her and whispered, You want to help the demon brat? I treat you like you should be a demon's whore. Kurenai started to fight back only to have the man overpower her and tear her clothing. When the guy had her completely, he whispered again, Enjoy, because I am going to do my best to make you feel pain as long as I can. Kurenai laid there with her eyes closed, knowing there was nothing she could do. Right as she felt the man's touch her vaginal area, she prepared herself for pain of losing her virginity. However, the pain never came. She opened her eyes to find the man standing there with wooden spikes through his stomach. He lived long enough to watch his testicles be crushed between what looked like 2 wooden hammers. The man fell down dead. Kurenai looked around for her savoir and found nobody. An Anbu passing the scene immediately stopped and helped her. They took her to the hospital. When she arrived, she found the Hokage waiting for them. She looked at the Hokage and explained what happened. As she got to the end, she spoke about the wooden spikes and the hammers. The Hokage was shocked that someone was using the first Hokage's wood element. As Kurenai passed out, the Hokage had her protected. Little did anybody know this incident would later earn her the title of the Ice Queen of Konoha, as she would not trust any men at all. Around the village, whenever someone was doing something perverted or messing with a woman in a way they shouldn't, they would meet the same end as the man in the ally. Rapists and perverts were afraid to show their faces in public for fear of having their nuts crushed. Sarutobi was baffled. Nobody knew who was protecting the women, but fathers and mothers alike were appreciating it. Sarutobi decided to look in the records to discover who was descended from the first. The records were self-updating themselves every 3 months. What he found there shocked him more than anything. He knew that Tsunade was the last surviving member of the Senju clan. I hope that's right. If not, someone help me. It seemed that Tsunade gave birth to a child long ago that he was not told about. That child was none other Minato Namikaze, who was the father of Naruto Uzumaki. Sarutobi decided then and there to have Naruto followed. After 3 weeks, Sarutobi saw it himself. Naruto was manipulating the trees themselves without any hand signs. He had the bloodline that every clan in the village will be after. That boy has been dealt a cruel fate in life. He has one of the most powerful bloodlines in this village, can use it to a degree on level with the first Hokage, is the son of the fourth, and is hated by nearly everyone in this village. Sarutobi thought, he will make an incredible ninja when he enters the academy. Sarutobi did not know 2 major things. One was that he had a bloodline limit from his mother's side that he had not activated yet, and 2, due to the presence of the first bloodline trait which can control demons, he would fully absorb the demon on his 10th birthday. 4 years later, Naruto was 7 years old by this time. He knew about 20 jutsus, most of which were centered around his wood element. He had a total of 3 elemental chakras. He could use wind, earth, water, in which earth and water are combined to use wood. He managed to learn the shadow clone jutsu. Nobody knew how that one happened. He also knew his sexy jutsu, which he created to bust perverts, and his harem jutsu was reserved only for the mightiest of perverts. The biggest jutsu he knew that was a shocker was a stealth jutsu. It made him invisible to all who did not have a bloodline that could see chakra. Kurenai had effectively become the Ice Queen by rejecting all men that asked her out. She had made it to Chunin. The only person she really called a friend was Anko Mitarashi. The snake mistress had become really close to the newly named Genjutsu mistress. The thing that had everybody confused was how defensive she was when it came to Naruto. She would beat the hell out anybody that insulted the boy when she was around. She would also make sure nobody would attack the boy. However, when she was on missions, the boy was attacked in even greater numbers than before. When she returned and found the boy in the hospital, she was scarier than Tsunade was if you called her old. Naruto was walking through the village when he overheard Anko telling Kurenai about the locket that Orochimaru threw in the valley north of Konoha. It was too deep for Anko to retrieve it. Kurenai asked her what was so important about it, and Anko replied that it was her mother's and it had a picture of her family in there. Naruto immediately decided to get the locket back for her since she was one of few who were nice to him. He traveled for an hour until he found the valley. He used his wood to search the bottom of the valley and found the locket. On the way back to the village, Kyuubi spoke to him. "Hey kid, why are you doing this?" Naruto replied, "Because she is one of the few who do not hate me. Even the children want nothing to do with me. Well, just don't get hurt. I hate having to heal your sorry." While Kyuubi was being mean, in reality she had begun to care about the boy. She was worried that he would end up going crazy and trying to kill everyone. Not that she would mind, that she just knew that it was not in him to be a murderer. "It's okay, Kyuubi-san, I promise I will watch after myself. I will try not to get hurt." Kyuubi smiled at this and didn't say anything. Naruto decided to follow Anko and Kurenai home because they shared an apartment. Once they were leaving again, he slipped inside the house. He left the locket on the table with a note saying, "I don't know what it's like to have a family, but I overheard you saying this was your mother's. Take care of it. Signed, Mr. Smiley." After doing that, he slipped out of the apartment and disappeared. A few hours later, Anko and Kurenai returned home only to find this. Anko could not believe her eyes. It was her mother's locket. She broke down into tears. Kurenai stood there amazed at what she saw. Secretly, she was wondering if it was the same guy who had saved her from being raped. Naruto was looking in the window when he saw Anko's happiness. He turned and disappeared into the night. As he approached his shabby apartment, he noticed that something was off. Someone had broken again. This time they didn't trash the place. Naruto was afraid when he noticed that exploding seals were all over the place. Before he could even move, the explosions caught him and threw him out the window. Anko and Kurenai were startled when they heard the explosion. Kurenai realized that it came from the direction of Naruto's apartment. They took off for the boy's place. As they arrived, so did the Hokage. They looked at each other in silence. The explosive power had leveled the entire complex. When they began to look for the boy, they found an odd-shaped human cocoon. It unraveled itself to expose a young boy with bright blonde hair and really burnt skin. The major damage Kyubi had already healed. It cost so much chakra for Kyubi to fix the damage it actually made her tired. They looked on as they found the boy who should by all rights be dead lay there. Kurenai was the first to speak up. Hokage-sama, I request that you allow me to take the boy to my apartment to begin medical treatment on the grounds that he has no place to go and the hospital cannot be trusted to protect the boy. Hokage looked on as Anko agreed with Kurenai. Very well, but there will be an Anbu that I trust guarding your apartment at all times. I also ask that you allow Naruto a place to live once he has recovered. Sarutobi said, I will give you a monthly to check to help take care of the boy and for you to get a 3-bedroom place after he heals. I already have one in mind for you, so I am going to go take care of the paperwork. Anko, Kurenai and an Anbu took off to her house as they began the medical treatment. 3 days before Naruto's 10th birthday. Kid, we need to talk. Kyubi said. What's up, Q-chan? Naruto replied. I have a lot that I need to say, so be quiet and listen. Naruto nodded. On your 10th birthday you will fully absorb all of my powers, making you a half-demon. The color of your tails depend on you, but if I am guessing right, you will have red and black tails because a black fox is the most powerful and rare type of fox. I was the strongest fox, being a red 9 tails, but it's only because there were no black foxes around. A black 6 tail can easily beat a red 9 tail. Your colors will probably be black and red until you reach the age of 15, then the most likely will turn all black. Now for dealing with my powers. Like I said, you will absorb them all. I will still be here in your consciousness, but you will never have to ask for power again. Once this fusion happens, I will begin teaching you all about the Kitsune arts. I wish you the best of luck with this. Naruto stood up and walked out of his room to Kurenai. He repeated what Kyubi had told him, and Kurenai told him to stay here. She was going to talk to the Hokage. When she returned, Anko was with her. They looked at Naruto and told him after he makes his transition they would be taking him out of the village for until the people his age graduated from the academy. Naruto worried for 3 days. Then at midnight the transformation began. Kurenai and Anko looked at the boy screaming in pain, wishing they could do something to help him. After 5 minutes it was over. Naruto fell asleep and didn't wake till morning. Morning came and Naruto got up to go look at himself. He had claws that were about 2 inches long and his canines had grown out as well. He had 9 tails flowing freely behind him that were a mix of red and black fur. He had fox ears of the same color. He walked out where Kurenai and Anko sat waiting on him. They had previously gotten everything ready to leave the night before. When he walked out they both looked at him and thought the same thing. The tails were so cute. They both got up and walked over to start petting his tails. He stood there while they petted them for a while before saying, "Are we leaving or are you going to pet me all day?" They both blushed as they all got their gear and headed out. As they left the village, Naruto looked back at the village that hated him and thought, when I return you all are going to learn that I am not a weakling you can beat up anymore. He turned back to Kurenai and Anko and they all vanished from view. The Chunin sitting at the gate was bored out of his mind. Nobody had approached the gate all day and he was bored. He was staring into space when he noticed 3 figures approaching the gate. He immediately sent word to the Hokage and prepared himself. State your name and purpose for entering the village. He said, praying they were friendly. The black-haired red-eyed woman pulled out her leaf head protector. My name is Kurenai Yuhi. This is Anko Mitarashi and Naruto Uzumaki. We are returning to the village via orders from the Hokage himself so that Naruto may take the Genin exams and Anko and I take our Joinin exams. As he was about to reply, an Anbu with the dog mask showed up and said, "Go straight to the Hokage's office." They immediately left the gate in a shunshin and appeared at the Hokage's office. They all walked up to the office where Sarutobi was waiting. They knocked and waited. "Enter," Sarutobi said. They walked into the office and Sarutobi stood up. "It's great to have you both in the village again. I am going to do this so it is very easy. Anko Mitarashi, Kurenai Yuhi, you both are promoted to the rank of Joinin. This comes as a special service to village for helping it while helping Naruto gain control of his new power. Now, on to you, Naruto. I need to know what you are capable of doing." Naruto looked at the old man and said, "Well, I have mastered the Kitsune illusion powers. I also have gained an affinity for fire since I gained the fox's abilities. I have a little over 100 jutsus. I have mastered my transformation abilities. I can appear fully human or I can take on the appearance of the half-demon fox which gives me 9 almost fully black tails. My tails still have a tint of red to them. My chakra reserves are equal to that of 5 cages and replenish almost instantly so I will never run out of chakra. I have completely mastered my wood bloodline ability." He decided to keep his other a secret for now. Sarutobi looked at the boy and said, "Okay, even though you could pass the Joinin exams now, most likely I still want you to go to the academy. I need you help with a specific person. Sasuke Uchiha had his entire family murdered by his own brother. He is highly unstable. The only thing he cares about is revenge of his family. They already are expecting you, so go ahead and go." Naruto nodded and shunshine to the academy. Sarutobi looked at the remaining 2 standing there and said, "You 2 are dismissed. Anko, starting tomorrow you are to report to Ibiki and work under him in the interrogation and torture squad. Kurenai, in 3 days you will be in charge of a genin squad. And do not ask for Naruto. He needs to have more diversification than dealing just with you. No, both of you go home." They bowed and shunshine to the apartment. At the school, Iruka was giving everybody a review before the final tomorrow. He received a letter and he called a halt to the review. "Class, we have a new student joining us for the exam tomorrow." This caught everyone's attention. There was a knock on the door. Iruka thought, "That must be him." Iruka walked to the door and opened it up. There stood a boy that they all recognized by his blonde hair and blue eyes, but his appearance shocked them. He had an extremely well-built physique. He wore black cargo pants with kunai and shuriken holsters on both legs. He had on black combat boots that had metal plates attached to the bottom of them. On his chest, he wore a black mesh shirt covered by a set of armor that was molded to his chest. On that armor was the leaf symbol surrounded by what looked like 9 fox tails. On each arm was a leather greave with a metal plate fused into it. Engraved on each plate was leaf symbol surrounded by what looked the branches of a tree. His bright blonde hair and his blue eyes gave away who he really was. However, the students who knew who he was knew what was missing. The whisker marks that had once been a prominent feature were gone. He stood as the class stared at him. They all had looks of awe of their face but one. Sasuke was looking at the new kid and was wondering how strong he truly was. Iruka got the class's attention and said, "This is Naruto Uzumaki. He will join us as tomorrow. You will be paired off by you class grades. That is all for today. Class is dismissed." Naruto turned and walked out of the class. Sasuke was immediately after him. The class was intrigued, so they followed him. Nobody had ever seen Sasuke move with that much force. Once they were outside, Sasuke walked up to Naruto and demanded, "Fight me." Naruto looked at him with disinterest and said, "No, I will not fight someone who will not show common courtesy to the one he is interested in." Sasuke immediately spoke up, "I am Sasuke Uchiha. You will fight me now or I will force you to. I always get what I want." Naruto was getting pissed. "The council may hand you whatever you want because you are the last Uchiha, but I will not allow you to believe that you own me. I will not fight you, but if you attempt to fight me I will embarrass you in front of all our classmates. Sasuke was pissed. Naruto turned to walk away. Sasuke could not stand being told no. He went through some hand signs and screamed, "Fireball jutsu." Naruto turned around and grabbed the fireball with chakra and threw it back at Sasuke. He then vanished from view. The onlookers were amazed as Naruto turned up behind Sasuke, grabbed the boy and held him as the fireball connected, burning of all his clothes and hair. Before he could be hurt permanently, Naruto put out the fire by throwing him in the pond. "I warned you to leave me alone. Now I take my leave of you." The school kids were amazed. It was obvious to them that Naruto was way above genin level. Meanwhile, news of this had already reached the council, who were fuming. Their precious Uchiha had been made a laughing stock of the school. What made it worse was it was done by that demon boy. They were planning on getting revenge when Sarutobi showed up in the council chamber to put an end to it. The council was fuming when Sarutobi told them if they take any action, the Uchiha would be put to death for attacking a Konoha citizen. Sasuke had started it and Naruto defended himself, so no action was taken for fear of losing their precious Uchiha. Meanwhile, as Sasuke walked through the village, he saw everybody looking at him and smirking. The guys were making fun of him by saying things along the line, "There goes the littlest Uchiha," and laughing. Meanwhile, the females were laughing at him, and wiggling their pinkies at him. Most of his fan club was looking at him and laughing. They had lost all respect for him. If you haven't noticed by now, I hate Uchihas. They are nothing but petty thieves who steal jutsus. They never work hard and expect things to be handed to them. Obito and Itachi aside, there will be a lot more Sasuke bashing, so if you don't like it, do not read it. The only major fangirl he had left was Sakura. The next day at the academy, and it was Naruto's turn to take the exam. First was the hit the targets part. Naruto easily nailed all targets in the dead center. When it was time for him, Iruka told him, "Make 3 clones and you pass." Naruto asked, "Can it be a clone of higher caliber?" Iruka was puzzled. "Yes it can, but why do you ask that?" Naruto looked at him and created 30 shadow clones. He then dispelled them. He tried to make a normal clone and only one showed up and looked pathetic. The answer is simple: my chakra capacity is so high that making regular clones is impossible. I cannot reduce my chakra to that low of a level, so I just use shadow clones. Iruka looked at him and said, "You pass. Here is your headband." Naruto nodded and walked out of the exam room to his seat. He immediately performed a few hand signs, mumble a few words, and the design on his headband had changed. In the center was the leaf symbol. On the right was the 9-tailed fox, and on the right was a tree. The fox's tails wrapped around the leaf, only to meet the branches that also intertwined around the leaf symbol. He sat back, looked at his handiwork. He placed it on his head as the last person finished their exams. Everyone noted Naruto's headband and was in awe. Naruto was noticing everyone's reactions. Mizuki was enraged to the point to where he forgot about trying to steal the scroll. His new objective was to kill Naruto Uzumaki. After Iruka finished the team announcements, Naruto thought about the teams on his way home. Team 7 was himself, Sakura, and to his displeasure Sasuke. The idiot tried to attack him again. This time Naruto hung him by his underwear from the edge of the academy roof. Their joinin sensei was Hitaki Kakashi. Team 8 was Shino, Hinata, and Kiba under Kurenai as their sensei. Team 10 was Shikamaru, Ino, and Choji under Asuma, and they had their meeting and were to meet Kakashi in the morning. Naruto got to his house only to find Kurenai sitting on the couch drinking some tea. "How was your team, Kur-chan?" She looked up and smiled. "They did very well. They passed their tests and will be starting missions in the morning." "How was yours?" Naruto replied, "They sucked. All we did was introductions. Plus I am stuck with an Uchiha who thinks I should bow to him and an annoying fangirl who is so far up his she probably could throw a kunai out his mouth. Not to mention I have an instructor who will obviously never show up on time. I see no chance of having teamwork." Uchiha is too busy trying to fight me and Haruno is too busy trying to kiss him. Kurenai looked at him and said, I wish you were on my team. But the Hokage said it would be better if you were put with someone else to help diversify yourself among the new genin. Naruto just looked at her like he noticed something new. When she said she wanted him on her team, it was in a way that made him believe that she didn't want him as a student but something more. He decided to test the waters a little to see if his theory was right. You look really tense, Kur-chan. Would you like a massage to help you relax? Kurenai looked at him with lust in her eyes. She had been given a massage by him before and it was to die for. She didn't know what he did, but the last massage had felt so good that she had an orgasm during it. I would love one. My neck is really stiff. I want you to strip down to just your panties. I want direct access to your skin. Naruto replied. Kurenai was shocked. She had never let any man touch her the way he hadn't yet. Here he was asking for more. Kurenai said, no, after what happened to me I will never bare my skin to just any man. I refuse to put myself in that situation. Naruto knew what was going on. He knew that if he didn't come clean then and there that Kurenai would never trust him again. I am sorry, Kur-chan. I should have told about this sooner. I know exactly what happened that night. I know because I am the one who saved you. The man that attacked you was a med ninja who was in charge of the hospital. He attacked you because you brought the Hokage there and he forced them to help me, the demon child. I am sorry that you were put in that position because of me. I just want to help you relax, and the technique that I wanted to use requires direct contact to the skin. I'll be going now. I am sorry. He turned and walked to his room. Kurenai sat there for a minute stunned. She thought, finally it all makes sense. I always thought it was him but I never could prove it. I have always been there for him and in his own way he has been there for me. I need to make this right. She got up and walked to Naruto's room. She heard him inside. She opened the door only to find him packing his things. What are you doing? She exclaimed. I am righting the wrong done to you. I was the cause of a lot of your pain, so I am leaving so you won't be hurt again. Naruto said with a sad voice. Kurenai smiled as she said, Naru-kun, the only thing that would hurt me now would be if you left. Please put your stuff down and stay with me. She walked over and hugged Naruto as he looked up at her and smiled, so would you still like that massage? Kurenai looked at him and replied, yes I would, but if I have to get down to my panties then you have to strip down to your underwear as well. Naruto thought, let's see how far I can take this as he looked at her and smiled. Agreed, but since we are talking about fair, since I won't have anything covering my chest you can't either. That means no bra. Kurenai again was shocked. This boy is going to keep this going. You know what, so will I. Kurenai thought perversely, well if I cannot wear a top, you can't wear any bottoms. I think that's fair since I actually have that are normally covered. Kurenai stated. Naruto thought, damn, she's willing to keep this going. Oh well, might as well make myself the winner. Well, since that would show you the only thing I have that's secret for a male's body, you should be as well. Kurenai smirked as she said, okay, and immediately stripped down and walked to the living room. Naruto stripped and followed her out. Anko was heading home after a day of torturing people for information. For some reason, that aspect of her job really turned her on. As she approached the door of the apartment, she heard Kurenai moaning inside. She sneaked to the window to see what was going on. All she could see was a Naruto and a Kurenai in the middle of the room. Kurenai was screaming in pleasure. Anko went around the front and went inside. She expected to see Naruto claiming Kurenai's virginity, but instead she saw Naruto sitting on top of Kurenai giving her a massage with chakra in his fingertips. Kurenai screamed out, don't stop. Oh God, don't stop. Kurenai was having an orgasm just from the massage. They both looked up to find Anko standing there. I want to join. Naruto looked up and smirked. Come on over, there is plenty to go around. The following morning Naruto headed to the training grounds. He got there only 5 minutes before Kakashi did. As Naruto walked up she started to scream at him for being late. When he silenced her, "Shut up and listen. Somehow this test is going to be based on us working together. So let's do this and everyone goes home happy." They both sat there in silence as Kakashi showed up. "Today you are taking your final genin test. I have 2 bells. You must get them by noon or you all will be sent back to the academy. You must come at me with intent to kill or you will not get them. The one who does not get the bell will be sent back to the academy after being tied to a stump with no lunch. Begin now." Sakura and Sasuke disappeared. Naruto just sat down. Kakashi looked at him confused. "What are you doing?" Naruto replied, "It is pointless. You are a joinin. We are genin. Even together there is no hope of us beating you. Since they refuse to even formulate a plan to try for the bells, I am going to sit here and wait for time to expire." Naruto smirked. He had Kakashi trapped in a kitsune illusion. While Kakashi thought he was talking to a Naruto sitting on the ground, but in actuality he was talking to a stump. Kurenai was hidden in a tree watching the whole thing as her squad had already finished their missions for the day. She smirked when she saw one of the village's best ninja trapped in an illusion created by a 12-year-old half-demon. Naruto yelled for Sasuke and Sakura to come out. They both walked out as they saw Kakashi talking to a stump. Sasuke was the first to ask, "What did you do to him?" Naruto replied, "I trapped him in an illusion. Now take the bells so we can get this over with." They both grabbed the bells and Naruto released Kakashi from the illusion. "What the hell?" Kakashi exclaimed. Naruto, to make things go quicker, spoke up. "I trapped you in an illusion and allowed those 2 to get the bells." Kakashi looked at them and did his eye smile. "You pass be here bright and early in the morning." Dismissed. Kurenai, who wanted to beat Naruto home, left right then and there. Naruto turned to his teammates and said, "I will see you tomorrow," and left before Sasuke could ask him to fight him again. On his way home, he noticed that Mizuki was following him. He slipped into a ally and made a shadow clone. "Go inform the Hokage that Mizuki is tailing me." The shadow clone immediately took off. Naruto walked out of the ally and walked towards the forest. Mizuki was tailing him while he thought, "Today is the day the demon dies." By now there was Anbu following Mizuki. Of course he didn't notice, his attention was focused purely on Naruto. Naruto made it to a clearing when Mizuki made his move. A giant shuriken was flying at Naruto. He caught it and dropped it onto the ground. "Today you die, demon." That was all Anbu was waiting for. "Mizuki, you are under arrest for breaking the 3rd Hokage's law. Come quietly or you will die." An Anbu with a hawk mask said. Naruto smirked. He knew what was about to happen. Mizuki tried to run. The group of Anbu caught him and immediately cut his head off. They burned his body and kept the head for proof of Mizuki's death. "Naruto, go home," the hawk Anbu said. "Thanks for your help." Naruto nodded as he left for home. Naruto began his set as genin, performing missions such as capturing Tora the cat. The weird thing was when they went after the cat, it walked right up to Naruto and bowed to him. Little did the others know, it was because being a black 9-tailed fox made him king of demons. Kyubi had been the queen of demons, seeing as how she was the most powerful, but in the end, black beats red. The cat was safely returned to the Fire Lord's wife. They continued their missions when one day a red-headed woman walked straight towards Naruto. Naruto immediately smelled that she was a fox, and took off towards the woods. The red-head chased him. Neither of them noticed that Sasuke saw this and followed. Naruto was focused on the fact that a fox was chasing him. He never bothered to notice who had followed him since his attention was purely on the fox. As they reached the woods, Naruto called out, "What do you want?" The red-head simple stopped and bowed. "My name is Nina. I am the 8-tailed fox that took over for Kyubi no Kitsune when she was captured in this world. I came myself to see if the rumors were true. Naruto quickly replied. What rumors are you checking into? Nina smiled a fox-like grin as she released her tail showing 8 bright red ones. I came to view for myself the so-called 9-tailed black fox. If you are one, then you will gain control of all the demons. No matter what order you give, it must be followed, or the ancient vows all demons take will siphon of their power, leaving them helpless. So release your tails so I can see what I came to see. Nina noticed that Sasuke was hiding but didn't say anything. If Naruto was not saying anything, then she assumed that it was not a big deal. Naruto, however, didn't even notice that Sasuke was there. His attention was focused purely on the 8-tailed fox in front of him. Naruto looked at her and sighed. Very well. You will see what you came to see. Naruto concentrated for a minute as he assumed his demon form. He stood there in all his glory. 9 almost solid black tails swished around him. His ears were elongated and covered in the almost black fur as well. His canines were longer and his whisker marks were darker. His fingernails turned into claws. This is who I really am. I hope you like it. Nina stood there and looked at him. She could not believe that a half-demon was the most powerful of all. But the tails were the proof. She bowed to him and replied, "Thank for that. I am sorry that this had to be done, Naruto-sama, but it was necessary." Naruto smiled. It's okay, please stand up. I have some questions for you. Nina was more than happy to oblige. She replied, "Ask away." Naruto nodded. First thing, what are the benefits of being the Lord of Demons? Secondly, Kyuubi was supposed to be able to talk to me after the fusion. Why has she not said a word? Nina looked at him in surprise. Well, first let me say I figured you would ask about your tails not being solid black. But, now to answer your questions. First thing is all demons will obey your command. Secondly, you have the power to bestow demonic powers to anyone of your choosing, that includes things like the Sharingan. That bloodline came from Kyuubi herself. Thirdly, you cannot die of old age. You will come into your full powers at age 14. And you will gain the ability to transform into a huge fox like Kyuubi did when she attacked your village when you reach the age of 17. However, since you are part human, you can still be killed. It will just take a lot more than most humans have. You could take a direct blow to the heart, and as long as you release your demon powers, you will live and be healed. However, if your heart was removed, you stand no chance of living. You are immune to all poisons. You will continue to age until you reach 20. At that point in time, your body will stay there forever. Kyuubi herself was almost 10,000 years old. Also, you can sign any summoning contract you want. There is no limit for you. I suggest that you start with the Fox contract. You will be the first to sign it, and it just so happens I have it with me. Here. Naruto signed the contract as she kept talking. Now that things are in order, I will tell you about Kyuubi. The reason she has not spoken since the merger is losing that much power sent her into a state of sleep. She also probably helped adjust your body to all of the power you received. She should wake up in a few months, and at that time she can begin teaching you all of the things about the demon world. Naruto looked at her and said, "Thank you for the answers." Nina looked at him and bowed again and replied, "It is my pleasure, my lord. I have one request to make of you, if you would allow it. My daughter is a medical fox of the highest caliber. She is a red fox and just obtained her 5th tail. I wish for you to allow her to accompany you until you come into your full powers. It is my way of protecting my lord from future harm." Naruto looked at her and performed a few hand seals. Summoning jutsu. A red 5-tailed fox saw Naruto and bowed. Nina looked at Naruto and said, "This is my daughter Celestium. With that taken care of, I will take my leave of you. Good day." Naruto looked at Celestium and said, "Let's get a few things straight. First, I don't want to hear none of this Sama crap. Second, I am not your master. We are going to be friends and partners. Thirdly, you cannot be seen by any villagers or ninjas, so stay hidden until you feel me leaving on a mission." Then you can join us, okay? Celestium looked up at Naruto and replied, okay Naruto. I am going to go make a den for me in these woods. I will see you later. And with that she took off to make her a den. Little did Naruto know, Sasuke had followed him to the forest and hid while Naruto and Nina talked. After hearing the part about how Naruto could give demonic powers to anyone he wanted, he took off back towards the village. He had decided that when the time was right, he would use this information to make Naruto give him the power to kill Itachi. Naruto made his way to the Hokage Tower after that so they could receive their next mission. When he arrived, he found that Sasuke was out of breath and Kakashi had already been given the mission. Kakashi looked at him and said, our next mission is AC rank to escort the bridge builder Tazuna back to his home in Wave Country. Head home and pack for 2 weeks. Then meet at the gate in an hour. Naruto ran home, got the stuff he needed, sealed it all into scrolls and put the scrolls in his pockets. When Naruto got to the gate, Sakura sneered at him. Baka, where is your stuff? Naruto looked at her calmly and replied, it is sealed into scrolls. I will use it when I need it. Kakashi arrived with Tazuna and Team 7 began walking towards Wave. Naruto noticed 2 things. One, Celestium was following the group. That was good, he thought. The second thing is a puddle that was putting out chakra. He looked over at Kakashi and nodded towards the puddle. So he noticed it too. That boy is something else, I tell you. Kakashi thought. As they walked by the puddle, 2 ninjas came out and had a chain around Kakashi. Before they could even pull on it to shred him, Naruto used his wood ability to bind them in their place. When they could not move, Kakashi reappeared and the clone trapped in the chain disappeared. Naruto and Kakashi took about 10 minutes interrogating each of the demon brothers while Sasuke and Sakura looked after Tazuna. When they came back, Kakashi sent a signal for Anbu and then looked at his team. This mission is no longer AC rank. It is B rank, possible in A rank. Tazuna, why did you lie to the Hokage about mission level? Tazuna looked at the ground and replied, you must understand. My country is poor. All we can afford is AC rank. That is why I am building this bridge. It will help commerce and free Wave from poverty. Have you ever heard of Gato? Kakashi replied. He is a crook. On the surface he deals with shipping, but underneath he is a drug dealer and a spearhead for a lot of criminal activities. Tazuna nodded as he continued. That is right. Building this bridge would free us from Gato's control. That is why I am being targeted by his hired ninja. Kakashi looked at Team 7 and they all nodded. Kakashi said, we will continue this mission under one condition. Once Wave is back on its feet, you pay us for a proper B rank mission. Tazuna smiled as he agreed. The group continued on its way to Wave. As they approached the shore, there was a man waiting for them with a boat. As they crossed the water, Celestium was swimming along behind them. None of them had noticed the fox. Naruto was surprised to that. He made a mental note to ask Celestium why they did not spot her. They reached the shore and continued towards their destination. Get down! Kakashi yelled as a huge blade flew over their heads. Once it embedded in the tree, a ninja landed on top of the blade. Kakashi stood up as the others got into a formation around Tazuna. Zabuza Momochi, the demon of the mist. Kakashi said. Zabuza stood there as he replied. Copycat Kakashi. Said to have copied over 1,000 jutsu. Pleasure to meet you. Just hand over the old man and I will let you and your little team of misfits live. Kakashi replied. Sorry, I cannot do that. Our mission is to protect this man. Zabuza replied. So sorry to hear that. Hidden mist jutsu. And a thick mist covered the area. Stay where you are and protect Tazuna. Kakashi said. Zabuza began his silent killing speech as Naruto cut it. Yay, we get it. You have 8 major spots that result in death. You think that this mist hides you completely, but you are wrong. Naruto reared back and threw 4 kunai. Right after he threw, all you heard throughout the area was a man yelling in pain. It didn't help, the guy was pissed he had been caught. The mist began to clear as they saw Zabuza stuck to a tree with a kunai through each shoulder and one through each knee. In one move Naruto had successfully trapped Zabuza. How did you know where I was? Zabuza said through gritted teeth. He could not move his arms because Naruto had severed the muscles with the kunai. Very simple. You have one of the only human smells in this area I do not recognize. The other is the girl hiding in the trees over there. However, he has your smell all over her, so I assume she is your accomplice. If she approaches, she will be killed like you are about to be. Zabuza stared at the boy in amazement. Not only had he seen through the hidden mist, but he had detected Haku without even trying. I will make you a deal. Help remove Gato from this region and you can go free. If you refuse, then I will personally bury your body in the river. You have 1 week to decide. Naruto said as he walked to Zabuza and removed the kunai. Zabuza looked at the boy and smiled. I know when I am outclassed. I can sense you are just toying with me. I make my choice now. I will help you. So will Haku. As Zabuza said this, a young girl appeared next to him. Haku looked at Naruto and said, "Thank you for sparing Zabuza's life. We will return to our hideout and heal. We will meet you on the bridge when Gato makes his final move." And with that, the two were gone. Kakashi looked at Naruto and said, "When we get to Tazuna's house, I want answers." Naruto looked at Kakashi and said, "Fine, but we have to get moving." With that said, the group moved out. Once they reached their destination, Tazuna said thanks and went inside. Kakashi looked at Sakura and Sasuke and said, "Go inside. Your job is to stay here and guard Tazuna. No buts. Go." Sasuke and Sakura looked at each other and went inside, grumbling about it not being fair. Kakashi was purely focused on Naruto and neither were paying attention to the fact that Sakura was following them. He looked at Naruto and said, "Let's take a walk." They started walking as Naruto explained everything about himself. He told everything from his tales to who he was related to the demon world. He only left out 2 things. The fact that he could grant people demonic powers, and the fact that he himself had 2 bloodline abilities. He only told Kakashi about the wood element. Kakashi stood there for a minute and said, "I want to see." Naruto replied, "My tales are the wood element." Kakashi spoke back. "Both." Naruto nodded as he began to channel chakra. Immediately wood burst forth from his hands and formed into a bench. Naruto nodded towards the bench as Kakashi sat down. Then Naruto concentrated as he assumed his demonic form. 9 tails were swaying gently behind Naruto. Kakashi looked over his entire appearance with shock on his face. But, as soon as Naruto transformed, a small gasp was let out from the bushes. Kakashi immediately went over to the bushes and pulled a stunned Sakura out of the bushes. She immediately stood up and screamed at Naruto, "What the hell are you?" Quote. Naruto looked her in the face while knowing they had up by not paying attention. Naturally, she had freaked out when she saw Naruto with tails. To find out what she did, she didn't know how to take it. She fainted. Kakashi picked her up and carried her back to Tazuna's house. As Naruto sat there eating, Inari came in. He started his whole speech about they were all going to die when Naruto reached out and picked him up. "Listen, you little punk. I will not be killed by a thug like Gato. I spent my whole childhood with no family and running for my life from people who wanted to kill me. If they could not succeed, then a thug like Gato sure as hell won't." Naruto dropped Inari on the ground and walked out. Inari avoided Naruto the rest of the time because he knew that he was right. For the rest of that week, Naruto and Celestium were guarding Tazuna as Kakashi was training Sakura and Sasuke. In his own mind, Sasuke was planning on how to make Naruto give him more power. Naruto was wondering on how to deal with Sakura. The girl had a big mouth, and if he was not careful, the entire village would know about him before he was ready. Tazuna's men had already deserted the bridge. Naruto was using shadow clones to help with construction. At the end of the day, Naruto followed Tazuna to his house. The next morning, Naruto slept in while the others went ahead to the bridge. When he woke up, he heard a commotion outside. He went outside only to see Inari charging at two thugs. Naruto did a simple replacement with Inari's mother and a log and killed the two thugs. Naruto looked at Inari and said, "Thanks for distracting them. You did a good job. Rally the villagers and bring them to the bridge." Then he took off towards the bridge. Inari immediately went around and gathered the villagers. Meanwhile at the bridge Kakashi and the others were dealing with the hired ninjas of Gato. As the ninjas closed in on the group, a mist covered the bridge. There was sound of bodies hitting the ground as Zabuza and Haku showed up to assist the group. The battle continued until Naruto showed up and helped end it. When they regrouped, they noticed Gato standing at the end of the bridge with 200 hired thugs. Well. It looks like the demon has sided with the leaf. It's okay really. I was just going to have you killed instead of paying you, but this works out much better. Gato said with a smirk. Zabuza was pissed beyond all belief. He looked at the group and said, "Gato is mine, you handle the rest." Then he charged with all but Sakura following him. She made sure that Chizuna was safe. At the end of it, they all were dead. The group had not left a single thug alive. Zabuza had brutally killed Gato by cutting his legs off and watched him drag himself around before chopping his head off. Naruto looked at Zabuza and said, "Thank you for your help. You and Haku be safe." Zabuza relied, "Take care of yourself, kid. Who knows, maybe we can help you later in the future." With that, Zabuza and Haku turned and disappeared once again. After the bridge was finished, Chizuna, Inari, and the rest of the village were there to see the group off. As the group walked away, Inari pointed out, "We still haven't named the bridge yet." Chizuna looked at the group leaving. There is nobody that put more effort into helping this town than that boy. I say we name it the Great Naruto Bridge. With that being said, the village let out a cheer of approval as the ninjas from the Leaf Village vanished from view. The whole way back to the Leaf Village, Sakura was staring at Naruto. He is still part human and we do make mistakes every now and then. He knew since he was informing Kakashi about it that he could have used an excuse that it was genjutsu training. To rectify his mistake, he decided now was the time to screw with her head. "Why do you keep staring at me like I am going to grow a tail or something?" Kakashi caught on and decided he was going to have a little fun as well. Sakura replied, "You do have tails. I saw them." Naruto bust out laughing. "You must have hit your head. I don't have a tail. See?" Naruto turned his towards her and shook his butt at her. Sakura started, "You're lying." Naruto looked at Kakashi and said, "I do not have any tails." Kakashi added, "There was no tail, I would have seen it." Sasuke saw what was going on and smirked. Idiot wasn't thinking and spilled the beans. Now he is screwing with her head to make her forget about it. Sasuke spoke up, "You need to get your head checked. I didn't even see the dobi with a tail." Then he thought, if I help him, maybe he will help me by giving me power. Sakura thought she was going crazy. She screamed and then stomped off. Naruto smirked and walked off towards the forest. "I am gonna do some training, Kakashi-sensei. See you later." With that being said, Naruto walked off into the woods. After he was out of range, Celestium showed up. She had been following the group invisibly. Naruto looked at Celestium and said with a smile, "How were you able to make everyone in the group unable to see you?" "I shrouded myself in a kitsune illusion. That is how." Celestium replied. Naruto said with a smirk, "I want you to make yourself invisible to everyone but Sakura and me, and I want you to follow her. Make her think she is crazy. Nobody can even hint that you are around." Celestium turned into a little girl and replied, "Don't worry, my lord. This will be lots of fun for me." And Celestium slipped into the village after her. Sakura was walking through the village thinking about what happened and wondered if she really was just seeing things. Then she looked over her shoulder to find the five-tailed fox following her. She began to run. all the while thinking this was Naruto's fault. After running for a bit, she saw the fox was still behind her. She looked at the villagers and screamed, "Stop following me, you stupid fox." The villagers thought she was crazy. Several looked at her and told her there was nothing there. Everywhere she went, the fox was there. It was in her house, at her favorite restaurant, it was even at the hot springs. And all the while nobody could see it but her. This continued all day. At about 9 p.m. Sakura couldn't take it anymore. She went to Naruto's house and busted down the door. She stumbled in only to find Naruto laying in the middle of the floor with Anko in just her underwear giving him a massage. "Please make it stop. Stop this fox from following me. Please. Help me." Naruto calmly looked at her and replied, "There is no fox, Sakura. You need to go to the hospital and get yourself checked out." Sakura stood there and watched Anko resume the massage. After a few minutes, Naruto looked up and said, "Look, I am a little occupied. Go and take care of yourself. You obviously need some rest." Sakura turned to leave and saw the fox once more. She screamed and ran home. When she reached her house, she ran upstairs and curled into a ball in the corner. She looked at the doorway to her room where again, she saw the five-tailed fox sitting there swishing its tails around. All Sakura could do for the rest of the night was stare at the fox repeating the same word, "Fox, fox. 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 Fox, fox." The following morning when Kakashi met the group, he was 2 hours late. Expecting the yell from Sakura from being late, Kakashi waited for the scratchy voice to start. When it did not, he looked up at Sakura and saw she was staring into a spot where there was nothing. "Well, if Sakura decided to join us, I will tell you that you are all nominated for the Chunin exams. Fill these out and show up to room 301 at the academy tomorrow. Missions are cancelled, so enjoy your day." Naruto went home immediately because he knew that Sasuke was about to challenge him again. Sakura immediately ran from the fox that was still following her. On his way home, he rounded the corner to find Kankuro holding Konohamaru up by his collar. Naruto calmly said, "You might want to drop him. He is the grandson of the Hokage after all." Kankuro turned a slight shade of green and immediately dropped the boy. Konohamaru immediately ran off. Naruto turned towards the tree, "Get down here now." Temari and Kankuro looked really worried. Nobody had ever told Gaara what to do. In a swirl of sand, Gaara landed on the ground in front of Naruto. "Who are you and why is Shikaku begging me to follow your orders?" Temari and Kankuro were shocked at what was going on. Naruto looked at Gaara with a smirk on his face. "Who I am is of no importance. However, it would be wise to follow my orders or all of your demonic powers will be stripped from you and you will be left helpless." Naruto looked at Gaara, who stared at him. Gaara spoke up. "Is there any way that you can help me deal with him?" Naruto replied, "There is, but it will have to wait until after the Chunin exams, which I am sure you three are here for." Naruto was interrupted by an annoying Sasuke who was trying a sneak attack on Naruto. Naruto turned and backhanded him into a tree. While the boy was unconscious from the backhand, Naruto tied him to a tree after burning his clothing off once again. He then sent shadow clones running all over the village screaming that Sasuke was tied to a tree. While the council was pissed, the rest of the village sought amusement for his predicament. After today he would no longer be known as the Great Uchiha. Naruto turned back to Gaara, "Sorry for the interruption. As I was saying, I can help you, but we have to wait. The modification of your seal would put you out for at least 2 weeks. I promise I will help you if you agree to one thing. You will not kill any leaf shinobi." Gaara looked back at Temari and Kankuro. "I agree. Now I must do something as a show of good faith, as I hope you will. At the end of the Chunin exams, Sand and Sound will attack this village and attempt to destroy it. At that time we will join the Leaf and help with the war." Gaara said. Naruto nodded and made a shadow clone. He sent it to the Hokage and informed him of the incoming war. Naruto looked at him and said, "My turn. Release Shikaku enough so he can hear me." Gaara did as he was told with Temari and Kankuro cowering in fear. Shikaku was released and said, "What can I do ya for today?" Naruto looked at Shikaku and said simply, "You will leave this boy alone. Your power will be his to wield and you will quit tormenting him." Understood. Shikaku pouted and said, "I was afraid of that." Fine, you win. Shikaku released the hold and Gaara resurfaced. "Thank you. He is already following your orders. I don't know who you are but thank you. Temari, Kankuro, let's go. Our sensei is waiting for us." They nodded as they turned to walk away. Naruto spoke up once more. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki. If you need anything let me know." Gaara nodded as they walked away. These Chunin exams are going to be interesting indeed. Later that night, Sakura was running from the fox that never seemed to tire out. She saw Sasuke and tied to a tree. She immediately let him down. Sasuke had woken up a few hours ago but could do nothing as the people walked by laughing at him. He was so pissed off that he decided to attack the first person he could. Unfortunately for Sakura, that was her. He knocked her out and then burned her clothes off. He felt that someone should have to face the same embarrassment he did. When he had most her clothing burned off, he busted out laughing. He realized that Sakura stuffed her bra. She was no bigger than most girls wearing a training bra. He walked away laughing at her. She woke up a few hours later only to realize that she wasn't. Everybody walking by her was laughing at her. She started crying as she ran home, not believing that her Sasuke had done that to her. She looked over her shoulder only to find the fox following her once again. She cried even harder as she ran home. The following morning, Naruto meets Sasuke and Sakura as they made their way to the academy. Naruto noticed Sasuke glaring at him. "Listen, you and your chicken butt haircut can glare all you want, but unless you want a repeat of yesterday I wouldn't try anything." Sasuke just continued to glare. When they reached the academy, Naruto immediately noticed the genjutsu. He dispelled it and continued on with Sakura and Sasuke following him. Kakashi was waiting for them. "I am glad all three of you are here. This is a team effort, so if one of you didn't show up then you couldn't take the exam." Kakashi smiled at them and said, "Good luck," and disappeared with a shunshin. They went inside to find the rest of the genin already in there waiting for them. Ino looked at Sasuke and wiggled her little pinky at him laughing. Kabuto showed up and introduced himself. "You all are starting to attract attention to yourselves. You might want to tone it down." Sasuke spoke up. "What do you want?" Kabuto continued, "I just wanted to offer some help since I have taken the exams before. These are my ninja info cards. They hold info on almost all ninja in this village and others." Sasuke immediately spoke up. "What info do you have on Naruto Uzumaki?" Kabuto smirked and pulled a card. He was about to read it off when Naruto set it on fire. "You will not carry info of me around. The way you have this info. It is almost like a spy. Who knows, maybe you are a snake hidden in the leaves." Naruto spoke up. Kabuto was scared shitless when he heard the whole snake comment. He knew that Orochimaru smelled of snakes, but he didn't think it would rub off on him. Naruto had only smelled the snake on him, but he chuckled to himself as he watched Kabuto sweat. Kabuto was about to say more when Ibiki came into the room and screamed, "Okay, you LT tile shits. Take your damn seats." Going to skip Ibiki's explanation of the test. "You all know the drill, 5 times cheating busted, last question 15 minutes before end of exam." At the final 15-minute mark, Ibiki launched into his whole speech about Naruto was sitting there laughing to himself. He answered all the questions with ease. It was easy considering he had kept a 10,000-year-old demon in his body. He knew it was pointless though. Cheating was the whole point of the exam. Actually, it was gathering information, but the final question was the say-so. It was a way to weed out those who were not willing to take a risk for the good of the mission. After the ones who were scare-bailed, Ibiki looked at the remaining 26 teams. It is still too many though, but he could see that they were not moving. You all pass. He launched into his explanation about making choices like backing out of a mission because of the unknown and all that stuff, y'all know the drill. All of the sudden a black ball slammed through the window. She threw Kurenai into the roof and displayed her banner. The proctor of the second exam, the ever-sexy yet taken Anko Miterashi. Anko looked around the room. You let 26 teams pass? Are you getting soft, Ibiki? Ibiki chuckled. No, there are just that many stronger candidates this year. Anko looked at Naruto and winked. Then she turned her attention to the rest of them. Okay, you little maggots. It is time for the second exam. Follow me to training area 44. Otherwise known as the Forest of Death. Anko added another wink to Naruto and then lead the Chunin hopefuls to the Forest of Death. When they got there, Anko turned to the others and announced the rules of the second exam. Again, y'all know the deal here. Sasuke made a smart comment about how the council would get him promoted anyway, so he didn't have to even try. Anko immediately threw the kunai she was playing with into the ground right between his legs. You might want to be careful, you little faggot. Just cause the council worships the ground you walk on doesn't mean we do. And who knows, next time I might aim a little higher, making you and tiny. They're useless to the council. Anko said with a smirk. Everyone from Konoha bust out laughing. Sasuke was fuming. Anko was passing out the forms when a ninja from the grass handed her the kunai she threw back by her tongue. Here you go, Proctor. I just thought I would return your kunai. Anko replied. Thank you, grass ninja. Anko looked at Naruto as he waved her over. That ninja smells very strongly of snakes. And she is a lot more powerful than she is letting on. Anko nodded and licked his face. I love the taste of fresh meat. Then she whispered, good luck. After they went through and got their scroll, Naruto immediately pocketed it. When they reached their gate, Naruto turned to them and said, first thing you two find us a safe place to camp. I will scout the area. Sasuke was about to grumble when the look he got from Naruto shut him up. They both agreed. Sakura had made it back to the point to where Sasuke was a god among men. Naruto had Celestium stop following her for the Chunin exams. The buzzer sounded and they made their way into the forest. Naruto looked at them and nodded. They split up and Naruto went after other teams. Sasuke and Sakura made the camp while Naruto was busy fighting other teams. After a while, Sasuke and Sakura heard movement. The grass ninja came out and began attacking them. Sakura was immediately knocked out. After a few minutes, Sasuke was finally able to activate his Sharingan. Orochimaru watched as Sasuke activated his Sharingan. With it just activating, this will make it much easier to corrupt. Now for the curse mark and a little bit of fun for me. Orochimaru thought. Sasuke was running out of chakra and Orochimaru had revealed his true self when a fireball hit him in the face. With this gift, you will seek me out for power. I promise that, Orochimaru said as gave Sasuke the cursed heaven seal. With that being done, Sasuke passed out. Orochimaru smiled in glee as he dragged Sasuke and Sakura back to the camp the two set up. Orochimaru then proceeded to take off Sasuke's pants. This is going to be fun. Orochimaru said to himself as he was laughing outside. He then proceeded to take the boy and bent him over a stump. He looked at the boy's virgin before shoving his up it. Orochimaru groaned in pleasure as he raped Sasuke. He was going to keep going when he heard Naruto approaching. Not wanting to be discovered, he came in Sasuke's and then disappeared into the ground. Naruto arrived on the scene and looked on in horror. After about 2 days, Sasuke woke up. The sound team had already made their move and Naruto killed them while Sakura guarded Sasuke. When he woke up, he immediately felt pain in his neck and his. When he asked what happened, Naruto told him that when he got back to the camp, he found him draped over a stump unconscious with no pants on. He also had blood and cum dripping out of his. Naruto busted out laughing at the fact that Sasuke had been raped by one of the guys in the exam. Then Sasuke remembered Orochimaru and told Naruto about his encounter with him. Naruto thought, so that is why I smell snake all over him. They shrugged it off and then made their way to the tower. Sakura was beyond pissed that someone had done anything with Sasuke first. She vowed to remove Orochimaru's nuts the minute she could. They made it to the tower and they opened one of the sets of scrolls they had. Kakashi came out and explained the reasoning behind the exams. Team 7 filled in their sensei on everything that happened, including the raping of Sasuke. Naruto laughed at this point. Kakashi told them to get some rest and be ready for the third exam. He then left to inform the Hokage of the events that had transpired. Sasuke was walking through the halls of the tower on his way to the arena. After being raped by Orochimaru, he was wary of every male around him. He was extremely skittish even around Kakashi for fear that it would happen again. Naruto saw Sasuke and started laughing again. They walked to the arena where they saw Sakura. In the arena, there was only a few teams that had Gaara's team, Kabuto's team, and also the entire Rookie 12. As expected, Kabuto and his team dropped out. Little did they know what was in store for the future. Since there was too many people, Sarutobi said that there would be a preliminary round. The proctor for the third exam was Hayate. If you cough would allow me cough to explain the exams since I am the proctor. Sarutobi nodded and Hayate explained the third exam. As everybody looked up at the screen to see who would go first, they looked on with amazement at the names that were on the screen. Naruto Uzumaki vs. Sasuke Uchiha. Naruto immediately jumped into the arena. Sasuke knew he was fucked because he could not use any of his chakra. If he did, the curse mark would activate and the Anbu Black Ops would swarm him. He dropped into the arena and faced off. Hayate looked between them and said, "Begin." Sasuke immediately threw kunai at Naruto. In a very lazy fashion, Naruto caught them and threw them on the ground. "Is that the best you got, faggot?" This pissed Sasuke off to no end. He immediately charged and began throwing a flurry of punches that Naruto just blocked. At the end of the flurry, Naruto let Sasuke land a punch. Sasuke immediately got all smug and said, "Looks like I am better orphan." As he started to walk towards Naruto, Naruto started laughing. "Are you kidding me? I've been hit harder by old ladies." Naruto continued laughing. Sasuke was fed up with him. He activated his Sharingan and let the curse mark begin to take over. In a flash, Naruto was on top of Sasuke and pounded him into the ground. In less than a 10-second assault, Sasuke was unconscious. Hayate walked up and declared Naruto the winner. Sakura immediately began to screech like a pink-haired banshee, "Why did you do that to my Sasuke?" Naruto glared at her while her said, "Shut up, you stupid banshee fangirl. You are not fit to be a ninja. This was a test. It was him or me and obviously I am better. I don't want to hear another word." Sakura was about to respond when Kakashi put a hand over her mouth. "That's enough. If you continue this fangirl attitude I will remove you from the exams myself so there is no chance of you getting someone killed." Sakura was about to start sulking when the screen showed her name. Sakura Haruno vs. Gaara of the Desert. She swore that she would make it to the finals so she could avenge her Sasuke. Naruto walked over to Gaara and told him, "Make her regret trying to be a ninja. Just don't kill or seriously maim her." Gaara looked at Naruto and nodded. He proceeded down to the floor where Sakura was waiting. "Begin," Hayate said as Sakura charged. Gaara just sat down on the ground. For 20 minutes he sat there playing with her by using his sand to slowly shred her clothing. She was too pissed to notice that everybody could see that she stuffed her bra. When he had her down to her panties, bra and shoes, he began to make little lacerations on her skin. Nothing too seriously but just enough to cause pain. Think of hundreds of paper cuts all over your body. She eventually broke down in the middle of the arena and started crying because she knew that she was done. Hayate stopped the match, and declared Gaara the winner. The medics escorted her to the medical bay. The rest of the matches went by without a glitch. After they were all over, they saw the line up for the real third exam, which would take place in a month. Gaara vs. Shikamaru. Neji vs. Naruto. Rock Lee vs. Choji. Kiba vs. winner of third match. When Sakura left to go home, she was relieved to find she was not being followed by the fox. Naruto had called off Celestium to ensure that his teammate didn't end up stuck in a padded room. Naruto left the arena and returned home. When he got there, he was smothered by Kurenai and Anko, who were both extremely happy that the boy had made it this far. Naruto told them that he was going into the Forest of Death to train so he would see them at the exams. A day later, Jiraiya was searching through the town for Naruto. Sarutobi had asked him to teach Naruto the fourth Hokage's jutsu. He heard the rumor that Naruto was in the Forest of Death from Sarutobi, so he headed out there to look for the boy. When he got there, he could not believe what he saw. He saw 1,200 clones of Naruto all working on something different. The ones that really caught his eye was the ones who were working on something that looked like the Rasengan. Jiraiya walked out in the opening and did his whole mighty dance introduction. Naruto calmly looked at him and replied, "Nice to meet you, but I am busy training, so what do you want? And make it quick." Jiraiya was taken back at the boy's attitude. "I was here to offer you training so you can pass your Chunin exams, but if you don't want it, then I will leave." Naruto immediately jumped up. "What can you teach me?" Jiraiya listed off all of the jutsus he knew and then showed him the Rasengan. Naruto smacked himself in the head. "That's what I am doing wrong." Jiraiya was confused. "What are you talking about, kid?" Naruto replied, "Ever since I saw Kakashi use Chidori on our mission, I have been trying to create my own version of it. But with the way my chakra is, I cannot condense it into the lightning look." Naruto stopped just by seeing it once. He began to form a perfect Rasengan. After watching Naruto form the Rasengan, he noticed that the Rasengan began to change shape. It started to look like a massive shuriken of chakra. However, Jiraiya could plainly see that Naruto was adding the wind element into it. The look of it was impressive, but the screech it was letting off was one that could chill people to the bone. "Wow, kid. You just took a jutsu that took the fourth 3 years to complete and stepped it up to the level the fourth wanted to but failed it in less than an hour," Jiraiya said. After seeing that, the pervy sage resolved to pass along everything he knew to the boy. By the end of the month-long training period, Jiraiya was amazed. Not only had Naruto learned every jutsu Jiraiya knew, but he had mastered a level of speed that was greater than guys who had his weights off and the celestial gates open. Jiraiya was stunned. This boy was probably greater than Hanzo the Salamander in his prime. Little did he know that this boy was the Lord of the Demons. Sasuke was pissed beyond all hell. He went to the council to have them get him promoted, only to be told that they could not do anything since he did not make it to the third round. He was livid. By this time, everyone knew he was trying to get the council to promote him to Chunin. Every ninja in the village was giving him dirty looks. When he got home, he saw a pathetic piece of shit spray painted on the front of his house. The day before the exams, Naruto was meditating. He wanted some peace and quiet before the exams. "Long time no talk, kit." "Ah, don't do that shit. You surprised me," Naruto exclaimed after hearing the Kyuubi talk. "Sorry about not talking to you. I woke up a few days ago, but you were busy, so I left you alone." "What have you accomplished?" Naruto explained everything that had happened and everything he had figured out in her absence. "Wow, kit. I am proud of you. I still have some things to teach you, but it will wait until after the Chunin finals. I am proud of you. Especially with you driving the pink-haired banshee nuts." "She was pissing me off," Kyuubi added in her own thoughts. "So what took you so long to wake up?" Naruto asked. "Well, when the fusion was going on, My chakra was attacking your body worse than I thought it would. Since you were so young, it would have killed you. So, I held back as much as I could and slowed the process down so it would not kill you. Doing so made me extremely tired and I needed to sleep. Even though I am nothing more than a voice in the back of your head now, it will make it so if anyone attempts to hack into your brain I can be a barrier to them, Naruto replied. Thank you for doing that, it was nice of you. Now I am going to bed before the exams tomorrow. Good night, Kyubi. And with that being said, the boy went to sleep. At the stadium the next day, the contestants were there waiting for the matches to begin. Little did people know what would happen today. Gaara, Naruto, and Shikamaru all knew what was about to happen. Shikamaru forfeited his match on the grounds that he knew when he was beaten. Right when Naruto's match was about to begin, the genjutsu washed over the stadium. Immediately knowing what was going on, Naruto looked at the Hokage who nodded back. Gaara and Naruto disappeared from the stadium. They appeared at the wall. As Sound and Sand began their attack, Naruto and Gaara made a bet. Whoever makes the most kills buys the other lunch. Naruto said. Gaara looked back, agreed. Let the best person win. They began laying waste to the invading army. The Sound and Sand shinobi tried to make the Summon Snakes attack. But not one of them wanted to risk their life to face the King of Demons. Meanwhile, Sarutobi was battling Orochimaru on top of the Hokage's box. Trading jutsus back and forth, Orochimaru used his Impure Resurrection Jutsu. The battle began once again. It continued for a little while. The invading army had lost before they gained any ground thanks to Naruto and Gaara. Sarutobi looked at Orochimaru and said, "Your army has failed. You will fall. Give it up, Orochimaru." Orochimaru screamed, "At least I will kill you." Sarutobi performed the hand signs for the Reaper Death Seal. He sealed the first and the second Hokage and then started to seal Orochimaru. Sarutobi knew he couldn't finish it. He was too far gone from having the grass cutter shoved through his chest. "I don't have enough strength to finish you, but I have enough to end your quest for power." Sarutobi sealed Orochimaru's arms and fell down dead. Orochimaru knew his plan had failed. He gathered his people and retreated from the village. Naruto and Gaara were on their way back when they heard that Sarutobi was killed by Orochimaru. Naruto was beyond pissed. The old man had been killed by a child molester. Naruto swore then and there that the snake bastard would die. The following day was the funeral for the third Hokage. Naruto stood there and waited for everyone to pay their respects. After everyone had left, he walked over to the grave and knelt down. After a few seconds, there was a small rose bush growing on top of the grave. He left and met up with Gaara. "It is time to fix your seal." Gaara replied, "There is no need. Shikaku is behaving himself. As long as he remains so, I will not have a problem with things being this way." Naruto nodded and replied, "Let Shikaku out once more. I want to talk to him." Gaara nodded and closed his eyes. Shikaku surfaced and said, "What can I do ya for today?" Naruto looked at Shikaku and said, "This is it for you. You will never escape that boy, so you are to make his life the best you can. I recommend you fuse with him like Kyubi did with me. But that is for you to decide with him. However, you will be at the boy's call whenever he requires you to. No more of this driving him crazy by not allowing him to sleep. Is that understood, Shikaku?" Shikaku used Gaara's head to nod. "That is completely understood. When he reaches a point where he can handle a fusion, I will perform it. Good luck in the future, my lord." Gaara returned to the surface. Naruto said, "I assume that heard everything." Gaara nodded. "So you had the Kyubi in you. What happened with you?" Naruto explained everything that had happened to him. "I see, so what happened to you also happened to me. Only you managed to find some precious people while I used death to prove my existence." Gaara said. Naruto nodded as Gaara and him began walking towards the gate. Temari and Kankuro would return and make the Sand Village a better place. When they got there, They found the two waiting for them. Naruto turned to all three of them and said, "Be safe. If you ever need anything, just let me know." Okay. The three sand ninja nodded as they said goodbye to Naruto. Within minutes later, the three were gone. Jiraiya went to the council the day of Sarutobi's funeral. They wanted him to be Hokage to take Sasuke and train him. He refused downright. He said that he would go and get Tsunade as the fifth Hokage. As for Sasuke, Jiraiya told them that he would not train a pompous asshole who thinks the world should bow down to him. He was going to get Tsunade and he wanted to take Naruto with him. The council would not allow this. They told him that if he would not train Sasuke, then he could not train Naruto. Jiraiya was pissed. He knew that they wanted to make Sasuke the best and breed the Sharingan to be the ultimate bloodline. He also knew that the council would be watching now, and if he took Naruto with him, they would try and label Naruto as a missing ninja. Naruto was walking around the town remembering the old man when Jiraiya approached him and told him to get ready to go and get the Tsunade. Naruto asked why and Jiraiya told him they were bringing her back to be Hokage and to meet him in 2 hours at the south gate. Naruto ran home. "I am sorry I haven't spent time with both of you lately," Naruto said to Anko and Kurenai. They both looked at each other when Kurenai spoke up. "It's okay, we know that you have been busy. We forgive you, just make sure you bring Tsunade home so we can have some time together." Anko added in a whisper, "It's about time, Kurenai, and I made you a man." Naruto's face turned bright red as they both kissed his cheek. Then they took time and both had a lengthy makeout session. Kurenai whispered, "You have more waiting for you when you get home, so hurry back." Naruto nodded as he sprinted to the gate. Jiraiya busted into the council room. "Okay, listen up, fucktards. I am only gonna say this once. I am taking Naruto with me to find Tsunade. If you so much as think about trying to list him as a missing nin, I will come back to this village with Gamabunta and squish it. Is that understood?" The council nodded very fast. Last thing they wanted was another Sannin pissed at them. Jiraiya met Naruto at the gate. They immediately set out to find her. Since Naruto had already taught Naruto everything he knew, they treated each other as equals instead of a teacher-student relationship. They would spar every few days just to keep their powers top-notch. Naruto began working on a technique that would add the fire element to the Rasen Shuriken. So far he had failed. Jiraiya could offer no help because he had never even been able to add the wind element. One thing he did accidentally was learn how to throw a normal Rasengan. He also learned that he could attach chakra strings to it and direct it wherever he wanted it to go. After a few weeks, they managed to pinpoint her location. They reached the town they knew Tsunade was in at the time. They were walking down the street when Jiraiya decided to stop at a restaurant. When they walked inside, Jiraiya saw Tsunade sitting there drinking sake. Tsunade could not believe it. She saw a small copy of her son standing there with Jiraiya. She stood up, walked straight by Jiraiya and gave Naruto a massive hug. "I never thought I would see you again, Minato." Jiraiya and Naruto were stunned. Well, Naruto was turning blue from lack of air. "That's not Minato Tsunade. He died when he sealed the Kyuubi into this kid," Jiraiya said. Tsunade quickly let go and strode over to Jiraiya. "Does this boy know that his father was the fourth?" she whispered. "No," Jiraiya said. She turned to Naruto and said, "I am so sorry. You look just like someone I used to know. What is your name?" "My name is Naruto," he spoke. They sat there trading stories of the good old days, when Jiraiya told her about what Orochimaru did. "I know. I saw the bastard a few days ago. He wants me to heal his arms," Tsunade said. Naruto was getting pissed at the small talk. "Just ask her the damn question so we can get the out of here." Shizune was looking at him with a look of shock. He had just told a Sannin what to do. "No," Tsunade said firmly after hearing Jiraiya's proposal for her to be Hokage. "I will never accept such a job. Only fools do," She didn't finish her sentence. Naruto reached over and threw her by her hair out the door into the street. He got up and walked out. I can understand you not wanting the job. But if you insult the old man, you will die just like Orochimaru will when I find him. Naruto said with a cold hatred in his voice. Tsunade stared as he powered up a Rasengan. The kid really is his father's child. Look at this power. She thought. Then she gasped. She watched as the Rasengan made the transition into the Rasen Shuriken. Tsunade knew that if she did not do something fast she was going to be mincemeat. Okay. I was wrong. I will accept as long as you stay in the village to protect it. Naruto powered down his weapon of mass destruction. After powering down the Rasen Shuriken, Tsunade walked over to him and inspected his arm. While that was one hell of a technique, you are not allowed to use that technique more than twice a day. It is attacking the cells in your arms on a cellular level. Naruto nodded sheepishly as they walked back inside to get some food. Naruto listened as they all had small talk and then asked a question that shut them all up. Does any of you know who my parents really were? They all said that they didn't know really quickly and ordered some food. While eating some food, Tsunade informed them of the deal that Orochimaru had approached her with. When you return to face him we will be there hiding. It is time the snake Sannin died. Naruto said to Tsunade. She looked at him with shock on her face. Why are you so adamant about killing Orochimaru? She asked. Because he killed one of the only people to recognize me for who I am. He saw me as a young boy instead of a demon. He recognized that I was the Kyuubi's jailer instead of being the Kyuubi itself. That is why Orochimaru will die. Naruto said with venom in his voice. Tsunade and Shizune looked at him in amazement. They saw that the boy was serious. They quickly turned the conversation to bringing Orochimaru down. A week later Tsunade was standing there waiting for Orochimaru. When he showed up, he did not even get the chance to speak. Naruto had released his true demonic form and attacked. He punched the snake bastard in the face and Orochimaru went flying. Nobody was moving but Orochimaru and Naruto. Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Shizune were too shocked at Naruto's form to realize that Orochimaru was trying to escape. Before Naruto could blast him to pieces, he sank into the ground and vanished. After Naruto explained to them who he was, they began the long walk back to the village. Meanwhile, Sasuke was brooding on how to get promoted so he would have access to better jutsus. The only thing he could think of would be to bribe the council into forcing the new Hokage into it. He knew if that failed, he would have to find an easier route to power, so he began to make his plans for bribing the council and also began his plans to make Naruto give him power. Nobody knew that while Naruto was going to retrieve Tsunade, Sasuke was sneaking around and copying jutsus and fighting styles of everyone training. He even managed to copy Kakashi's Chidori. He had copied the Shadow Clone Jutsu from Naruto and was using it to his full advantage. Sasuke had found the secret scrolls of the Uchiha. He learned that he could force his Sharingan to reach the 3 commas in each eye by meditating for hours, just pushing his chakra into his eyes. It was the only form of hard work he had ever done. He realized that was how Itachi developed his Sharingan so fast. Also he learned of the Mangekyo Sharingan from the scrolls and how to activate it. So while his clones were off stealing jutsus, he was with Sakura building a relationship for him to destroy. Sakura was in heaven. The minute she was asked out by Sasuke, she felt as if she owned the world. Little did she know what the guy was planning on doing to her. Sasuke had known that no matter what, he was leaving this village. Most had no respect for the name he carried around. So he was resolved that once he got all the power he could from Konoha, he would leave and got to Orochimaru, who he knew could train him. Tsunade, Jiraiya, Shizune, and Naruto reached the village gates. Tsunade knew that she was in for constant paperwork, so she decided her first day was going to be an easy one. They proceeded straight to the council's room, where they made it official that she was the fifth Hokage. The town was buzzing. They all knew that Tsunade had returned and accepted the position of fifth Hokage. Everyone in the village had gathered around the Hokage tower. Tsunade walked out wearing the Hokage robes and made her speech. People of Konoha, like those who came before me, I will place my life on the line to ensure the safety of our home. No place is as precious as the Leaf Village, and I will do my very best to lead us into an age of prosperity and good fortune. Thank you for having faith in me to lead this village and protect it as my forefathers have done. With that being done, she proceeded to make the announcements she had originally planned for. As my first ACT of Hokage, IHEARBY promote Shikamaru Naru, Neji Hyugga, Rock Lee, Choji Akamichi, and Kiba Inuzuka to the rank of Chunin. That being said, the crowd burst into cheers. Tsunade knew that what she was about to continue with would probably piss a lot of people off. Furthermore, for his efforts in helping eliminate the Sound and Sand Ninja in their invasion of our beloved town, IHEARBY promote Naruto Uzumaki to the rank of Junin. There were only a few claps from the people that respected Naruto. Most of the crowd was just pissed. However pissed they were, they knew that if it was not for the boy, some of them would be dead now. So as a result, they quietly accepted it and all dispersed to go home. That went better than I thought it would. Naruto thought. Tsunade handed him his Junin vest and said, "Go home. I am sure you have two lovely ladies waiting for you at home." Naruto nodded and said, "Thank you, Tsunade. I appreciate it." He turned to leave when he was hit in the head by a book. "It's Hokage now, you little shit." Naruto turned and spoke with a smirk. "You're absolutely right. I will show you respect for your age. Later, Baa-chan." Naruto vanished with a snicker. Tsunade was pissed at being called old. She swore the next guy she saw was gonna get it. Naruto arrived at his apartment when he heard a man screaming. He looked up to see Jiraiya flying through the air like someone had punted him like a football. Naruto laughed and stuck his key in the door. Meanwhile, Sasuke was having a secret meeting with the council. "I will give you whatever it takes if you make the Hokage promote me to Chunin. I want access to the Chunin section of the library." They looked at each other and Danzo spoke up. "We will do what we can. If we are able to get you what you want, you must impregnate 10 women of our choosing immediately so we can begin building the Sharingan up again. Do you agree?" Sasuke had a smug look on his face. "I agree. Do your job. But I will not do anything unless you make certain that the Hokage cannot take my rank away from me." The council agreed and set to work. Sasuke walked out of there and thought, "Now I just need to manipulate Naruto into giving me demonic powers and I will be set to kill my brother." He walked home letting out a maniacal laugh. The following morning, Naruto was up and making breakfast for Kurenai and Anko. They both woke up and immediately felt as if their vaginas had been pounded with a sledgehammer. They got up and half walked, half limped into the kitchen. "Last night was amazing, girls. That was the greatest night of my life." They looked at each other and said at the same time, "It was for us also, but you could have told us you had a monster in your pants." Naruto winced and immediately apologized. "I am sorry. Did I hurt you too bad?" They both shook their heads when Kurenai spoke up. "We are fine. Just extremely sore. I think I will send a message to the Hokage telling her we need a few days off." Naruto replied, "I will tell her I need to head there anyway." They said their goodbyes and Naruto left for the Hokage's office. Ever since he had asked her out, Sasuke could not get rid of Sakura. He actually began to fall in love with her and it pained him to think about what he was going to do to gain the next level of his Sharingan. "Sakura, I have a meeting with the council. I will see you later, okay?" Sakura nodded and went about her day skipping and laughing like a little school girl. Sasuke made it to the council's chambers and walked in. So what are the results? Danzo spoke. No go. Tsunade knows how to play games. She said that if she was pressured one more time to make you Chunin without you passing the exams, she was going to step down as Hokage and sell all of the land that the Senju clan owns to Iwa. It pains me to say this, but seeing as how the Senju clan owns half of Konoha, that would not be the wisest move on our part. Sasuke looked at them and smiled. Very well, I will go elsewhere to get new techniques. He turned and walked out of the council chamber. He was walking towards where he knew Naruto lived when he saw him by himself. He approached Naruto when Naruto looked at him and said, "What do you want, Sasuke? I have more important things to do than banter with you." "Well, I just wanted to talk to my teammate. So how is Nina?" With that, Naruto froze. Naruto quickly spoke up. "What? I don't know what you are talking about." Sasuke laughed and said, "Don't lie to me. I saw it all. How she was a red eight-tailed fox, and since you have black tails, she along with every other demon has to listen to you. You can also give demonic powers to people, and that is what I want. I want you to give me the same power that you have. If you don't, I will go to the council and expose what you really are to them. I will give you 3 days to think about it, Demonlord." The last part Sasuke said with a sneer and left. Naruto was stunned. He was just blackmailed by Sasuke. He could either give him power or face the village. Naruto didn't know what to do. "Hey kid, it is time I teach you something very important. Actually, I will teach you several things. The first thing is, all bloodlines originate from demons. Whether it is a chance encounter, or the demon is sought out by humans. Long ago it was considered an honor to be given a bloodline. Hell, I am the one who gave the Uchihas the Sharingan. As much as I hate that fact, now it is done and over with. Now the first technique I am going to teach you requires the use of demon hand seals. This technique is known as the bloodline purge. When you perform these seals, the person you touch will remove their bloodline from the face of the earth. Even the people who do not know about it will have the bloodline removed. An example would be, if you were to perform this technique and touched any member of the Hyuga clan, Byakugan would be erased from the face of the earth. Nobody could ever use the Byakugan again. It would not even transfer to their children. Naruto was amazed. "You can explain later, but right now I have to meet with the Hokage." "Okay, we will chat later, Kit." Naruto got to Tsunade's office. He told her all about what Sasuke was trying to do. "I will leave the choice up to you. Just make sure that idiot does not destroy this village." Naruto nodded and walked out. He went to training ground and learned the new technique for bloodline removal. "That is great, kid, you got it down. Now the next technique is called bloodline insertion. You can create whatever bloodline you want and set the requirements for using the bloodline." Naruto spent the next few hours learning the technique. After that, he made his 1200 clones and began working on everything that he knew. Several hours later and one sweaty Naruto later, he had already figured out what he was going to do. He would remove Sasuke's bloodline. "Well, Naruto, what do you plan to do? Are you going to give me power, or are you going to allow this entire village to hate you even more?" Sasuke said with a gleam. Naruto faltered in his plan. "No, I will not give you any demonic power. You are too unstable to handle that kind of power." Naruto replied. "Wrong answer, demon," Sasuke said. Then Naruto realized something. The Sasuke standing in front of him was a shadow clone. The shadow clone dispelled itself. Naruto sighed. It would only take a matter of hours and the entire village would know. He had the feeling that Sasuke was waiting by the council chamber. A few hours later, Naruto was sitting on top of the monument waiting. Sure enough, he began to hear the villagers tearing through the town looking for the demon. They wanted to end this immediately. Naruto hid from them because he knew that if he was seen, he would have to kill them all. Midnight rolled around and Sasuke was walking towards the gate. He was beyond pissed. He failed to gain the power he wanted. He knew that going to Orochimaru would give him some power, but it wasn't what he really wanted. He wanted power that his brother had no hope of obtaining. Where are you going, Sasuke? He heard Sakura ask him. He knew she would come after him. In fact, he was counting on it. Sakura begged him not to go. He looked at her and whispered the last words she would ever hear. I love you, and I am truly sorry. He plunged the kunai he had hidden right into her chest. He watched as she fell to the ground dead. After feeling his Sharingan take its final form, he turned and vanished into the night. Naruto, I want you to go and return that idiot back here so we can charge his with murder. Tsunade said after explaining what happened to Naruto. He was pissed. He nodded and immediately disappeared. Sasuke, get your back here. Naruto had killed all of the Sound 5 in a matter of seconds. The idiot Sharingan user decided to run. Naruto chased after him for about 5 minutes. After Naruto caught him, he said, Okay dipshit, I will make you a deal. I will give you power if you come back to the village. Why are you doing this now? Sasuke asked. Because face it is the only way to get your stupid to come back to the village. If I don't bring you back, Tsunade is gonna have my on a silver platter. Sasuke looked at him and said, Fine, but you give me my power here and now. Agreed. Naruto walked towards him. While performing the hand seals required for his jutsu, he thought to himself, this dipshit is so power hungry that he is playing right into my hands. I don't even have to do any hard work. Both him and the Kyuubi was laughing their off. This kid has no idea what is about to happen. Naruto finished his jutsu and walked over to Sasuke. Sasuke closed his eyes waiting to feel a surge of power flow through him. Instead, he heard 2 words that would haunt him until he died. Bloodline removal. Sasuke felt the powers of the Sharingan leave his body. Then his body was racked with a terrible pain that rendered him unconscious. Meanwhile, in a hidden location, Itachi, Kakashi, and Madara both let out horrible screams of pain before collapsing to the ground. Naruto took the time to haul and knocked out Sasuke straight into the council's chamber. What do you want, demon? We know what you are. There is you, precious Uchiha. Although, you may want to reconsider your thoughts on the matter because his Sharingan is gone. He can't even continue the line anymore either. As for you knowing what I am, I don't care. It would have come out anyway. Naruto snarled at them and left the room. They waited until Naruto was gone before discussing what to do. After they had talked for a few minutes, they sent an Anbu after Naruto. Naruto did not even make home when he was called back to the council. What do y'all want now? Danzo stood up and smirked. Naruto Uzumaki. We sent Sasuke on a secret S-class mission to spy on the Sound Village that you directly impeded upon. However, since you were sent by Tsunade to retrieve him as she had no knowledge of. Since that was a legitimate mission, we cannot have you executed, but your punishment will consist of 2 things. 1. You will tell us how to restore Sasuke's Sharingan. 2. After that task is complete, you are hereby banished from the village.